ET Now. The rising reports of technical glitches in aircraft, it has really put question marks on aviation safety in India. Now, the Directorate General of Civil Aviation has conducted spot checks to Airline and their aircraft just to review preparedness. These spot checks have revealed several issues, and those include improper identification of the cause and the defect and the non-availability of required certifying staff. The DGCA, the regulator, has ordered that aircraft can take off now only after getting certified by staff and staff who hold an AME category license. What exactly does this mean? Let's understand this with Mark Martin. He's the founder and CEO of Martin Consulting. Great to have you again with us, Mark Martin. The regulator now ordering that aircraft can take off only after being certified by staff who hold an AME category license. How different is it from what we already had in terms of checks and balances, in terms of our safety checks before aircraft took to the air?
Vikram, thanks for having me and good to be here. I think this is a very startling finding because you have two categories of engineers and their licenses. You have a B1 license and a B2 license, and usually the B1 is the guy who's certified on airframe and the B2 is on engine and avionics and so on. So now if the practice has been that the guy certifying it is not a certifying staff, which means he's not typed on the aircraft, then this is a major concern because those sign-offs for flights are being done on engineers who are not qualified on the aircraft. So this is a startling revelation that we've come to know of today. This is a concern, and I think good on the DGCA to do the spot check and to identify this. And I think this again goes back to what you and I spoke the last time, which is we have an engineer and a pilot and a technical personnel shortage, and those has to be addressed. And now, after this finding, even more pronounced.
Why do you reckon we've reached this point? It is a shocker, to say the least, if it's as basic as something that we should have always been doing. If that is the case, why do you think that has happened? Why such a lackadaisical attitude towards safety?
Yeah, Vikram, that's a very good question, and I'll answer that for you because the buck stops with the airline. The DGCA and in India in particular, we have regulations that are defined by the European Aviation Safety Agency, as well as the International Civil Aviation Organization. So these are in practice, and the DGCA can do just as much by enforcing these, by imposing oversight and surveillance. But eventually, it's the airline that has to comply. And if the airline, this is clearly a violation of the airline. And when I talk about the airline, I'm talking about the leadership and the accountable positions, the post holders. The buck stops with them, and the DGCA it's high time they start throwing the book on post holders and airlines because this is a gross violation.
Why do you think airlines haven't been doing this? Is it because we don't take safety too seriously, or is it that there are cost concerns?
I think it's more about, when you've got a flight to depart, you've got 180 passengers sitting in your aircraft, you're looking for a certifying guy who can release your aircraft, but you just get it signed off by somebody else. Why would you want to cancel the flight? That's revenue coming in. And guess what? That's 180 passengers on Twitter, ripping you and destroying you apart on social media. There's several factors to this. And I think one of the factors which is more strategic that we can talk about and that makes a good discussion is that there's got to be stronger corporate governance and vigilance from accountable managers and the post holders at these airlines. They need to get up and say, stop, no, we're not going to do this. We're going to get more people and we're going to set our house in order instead of, taking the shortcut. This boils down to what we call in India and what's commonly called JUGAAD. Everything in aviation, when you have such stringent, such rigid regulations, we tend to use JUGAAD to get around it.
Right.
And this is something which it happens in most airlines, but it needs to stop. And if the DGCA has called out certain violations, then those violations, and I'm telling you, those are pretty serious. Somebody needs to walk up to these airlines, put those post holders and accountable manager in the room, and give them a piece of their mind.
If the spot checks have revealed something as basic as this, one wonders whether there are other revelations that could be equally shocking, and those perhaps might come up because perhaps it doesn't end here. And safety is an all-encompassing issue. We'll have to wait and watch exactly what the DGCA does and whether it uses the teeth it has to ensure that airlines follow the kind of rules that have already been laid out, but which, like you said, haven't been followed. But
right.
Because of the paucity of time, I'm afraid we'll have to leave it over there. But of course, this discussion continues and we'll continue to watch this space. Thanks very much for joining us this evening.